All right. I think I am live. This is the first time I've ever used this platform for this. Slowly trying to figure it out. All right. Okay. So, hi, my name is Elizabeth Lynch, and I am your Miss West Virginia 2022. So, sorry if there are any issues with the lives moving forward. I'm, again, still trying to figure it out. I typically do my Farmer Fridays every Friday, and it's my opportunity to talk to the agriculturists, ag organizations, and ag businesses across the state of West Virginia. So my goal is to get their story out to you and make sure that if they have any resources available, that you're able to access them as well. So I did have some questions that people asked throughout the day through my post that I made earlier. The first one that I'd like to talk about came from Dawn Ricks, and it's, who is Elizabeth Lynch? And I feel like that's a really good question to start on. So I started riding horses at 5 years old and raising swine at 9 years old. And I did that through 4-H, and I was involved really heavily through the Berkeley County Youth Fair and the West Virginia State Fair. I was able to show my horse at the State Fair my whole life, and that was a huge part of my experience in my childhood. And then I went into FFA at Musselman High School, and if you knew me freshman year, you knew that I was a little obsessed with the FFA creed. And that began with, I believe in the future of agriculture. And it was kind of in that moment when I was learning about the creed and reading it and memorizing it that I fell in love with that idea. Why do I believe in the future of agriculture? Why is it so important to me? And I realized that we have no reason not to believe in the future of agriculture, right? I mean, it's responsible for feeding us 3 times a day, making sure that we have clothes on our backs and fuel in our vehicles, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of the future. So at that moment, I dedicated my life to working on agricultural sustainability. So I graduated Musselman High School in 2016, and I went to Delaware State University, and I fell in love with their agricultural program there, and I worked on the research with Dr. Kwame Matthews, and I did research with sheep and goats and the Haemonchus contortus parasite, or the barber pole worm. And we looked at sustainable solutions for anthelmintics, or dewormers, with the sheep and goats. And I really kind of had that desire and that passion for research at that time, and I decided that that's the route that I wanted to take in the ag industry, is working with research. So I decided towards the end of my time at DSU that I was going to pick 2 of my worst subjects, which is really not the route that you typically take going into grad school. I picked 2 of my worst subjects, which was nutrition and biochemistry and poultry science, and decided to go ahead and get my master's in that area. I was lucky enough to have a program just like that at West Virginia University. So I spent the last 2 years doing research with poultry and applied poultry nutrition and feed manufacture research right here in West Virginia. And if you know anything about the ag industry here in the state, poultry is king, right? It's the #1 agricultural commodity. In 2019 alone, 75.5 million broilers were produced. To put that in perspective, we have 1.8 million people here in the state of West Virginia. So, a ton of chickens. All right. So I fell in love with that too, and I really enjoyed my time. I graduated with my master's this past spring, and will hopefully be starting my PhD after my year of service as Miss West Virginia. So who is Elizabeth Lynch? Elizabeth Lynch is a woman who is a proud woman in agriculture. And I don't say that just because it's my social impact initiative. I say that because, just like I said, it is my whole life. So that whole story, it always involves agriculture in some sort of way. So I wanted to make sure that I included that in my social impact initiative because it is 100% who I am. The next question that Dawn Ricks asked is, what did you do differently preparing this year to compete than in years prior? I really think I gave myself a different mindset, if that makes sense. So instead of really focusing on the competition aspect, I focused on myself, I focused on my social impact initiative, and really working on serving my state. That was my biggest thing that I really wanted to put an emphasis on. And I think having that mindset of this is what I love to do, and I'm just going to go out there and do everything that I can to promote what I love, that really kind of helped me going into the competition. And something that I like to say too is it doesn't matter if you have a crown and a sash, you can do the job of Miss America. So I kind of try to put that in my daily routine. I wanted to do the job of Miss America every single day. So I made sure that I was doing that throughout my year of service as Miss Jefferson County before getting this. And that's the same mindset that I'm going to have moving into the Miss America competition. So for anybody who wants to compete, just know that you're still doing the job of Miss America if you want to make a difference in your community, if you are empowering young women around you. That is the job of Miss America, and you can do that right at home. She also asks, years from now, what do you want to be best known for? Honestly, I hope that I am known as the Ag Woman. I hope that people remember me as the person who wasn't afraid to get their hands dirty, and as the Miss West Virginia who really made sure she got out there in her ag community and wasn't afraid to be on the farms and wasn't afraid to talk to people around her state. Okay? And if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot a comment. I can see them right here, and I can answer them as we go along. Stan Taylor, thank you for your question. He asks, you're already successful in your life. Thank you. So what motivated you to pursue the Miss West Virginia title? A while ago, I got the advice, you have only come this far, or pardon me, you didn't come this far to only come this far. That's the piece of advice. So you didn't come this far to only come this far. In my mind, I feel like I'm successful in a lot of places, like in my education, in my community, but why stop there? Why not push that boundary and keep pushing further? And that's something that's really important to me, is to always strive for more, strive for improvement, because even though you might feel like it's a perfect situation, you can always improve something. For me, I wanted to be able to get the title and the job of Miss West Virginia in order to make a difference in my state, in my agricultural community. I didn't come this far to only come this far, so why not take it any farther and try to be Miss America too? We'll get there eventually though. All right, Carrington Childress, who is currently our Miss Morgantown. She was my first runner-up at the competition this year. She is an amazing young woman. She asks, after working for the job of Miss West Virginia for these last few years, what kept you motivated besides the scholarships? When I joined, I think it was about 5 years ago, I joined the Miss America organization because of the idea of scholarships. And over these last 5 years, I've actually been able, I totaled it up the other day, it's around $16,000 in scholarships from the Miss West Virginia organization. So that's really what started me in this organization. What kept me going and what kept me motivated was the fact that I am able to talk about agriculture and talk about my dedication to my social impact initiative and make a difference. My goal is to really make sure that everyone around me understands that their food doesn't come from the grocery store. It comes from hardworking men and women across our nation. And I hope that I leave them with the idea that they're just a little bit more appreciative about where their food comes from. If they can think a little bit differently about what comes across their plate and maybe change their habits and try to shop local, I know that I've done my job. And that's a huge motivating factor for me. What are you most excited for at Miss America? Well, again, my whole life revolves around ag, so being able to take my social impact initiative to the national platform and maybe get people to change that mindset, change their perspective about agriculture on the national stage is a huge deal for me. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, I'm kind of excited about meeting the different women who have that same mindset as I do, wanting to change their state, change their nation, and make an impact on the young women around them. So meeting them and being able to talk to them is going to be a huge thing for me. She also asks, where can I get one of your headshot pins for Miss America? As soon as we get those, I'll make sure you get one, Carrington. Thank you so much for your question. Let's see. I actually got a message here, a question from Ruth Ann Harless. That's actually my aunt. Hi. She said, what advice would you give to someone who wants to grow their own vegetables but doesn't know where to start? That's really good. You know, I am, like I've talked about, I'm terrible at raising my own plants. You can ask anyone, I do not have a green thumb. Everything I try to grow will eventually not be alive anymore. So I like to go and read as much as I can. I try to seek out different advice from people who do have a green thumb. I will get educational resources. I know WVU Extension has a ton of educational resources that you can utilize to start growing your own vegetables, because a lot of people don't know where to start, and that's okay. I don't know where to start. But if you contact people, if you get some information, get some advice from people who know this area really well, then you're going to have a really good place to start. But I would highly suggest that you educate yourself first. Don't be afraid to read a bunch of things. All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for that comment. That's very nice of you. Hopefully I'll be able to make a difference. That's the goal. Okay. Jenny Caldwell, who was Miss Rhododendron, she again competed at Miss West Virginia this year. She is a phenomenal young woman. I'm really glad that she joined the sisterhood. She asks, what are some goals you have for yourself this year? Ooh, that's a tough one, because I feel like I have a lot of goals. You know, I really want to get the Miss West Virginia organization partnered with the WVU Extension, with West Virginia Department of Agriculture, and the West Virginia Grown Supported Here program. That one is actually in the works, so I'm really excited about that. But I want to create those connections and those partnerships. And the other big goal that I have is I want to try to bridge the gap between consumers and producers. Jessie Pinnell, we did a Farmer Friday interview. She works with the West Virginia Cattlemen's Association. We talked about this in depth. She also did scholarship competitions, and that was her social impact initiative, was bridging the gap between producers and consumers. And it's a lot harder than you think it would be, and it's a lot of explaining, you know, making sure that people understand what's going on. And if I can be that person to bridge the gap and make those partnerships and make those connections, then I feel like I'll be doing something pretty good. So hopefully it can accomplish those goals throughout my year. She also asks, what advice would you give to girls wanting to be involved in agriculture? This is actually something that I ask in every single Farmer Friday interview that I have with a woman in agriculture. How do you feel being a woman in ag, and what advice would you give to women who want to start being a part of agriculture? I will tell them that first and foremost, you can literally do anything you set your mind to. There are a ton of opportunities for women in agriculture. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to start, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't, because there are other women around who want to do the exact same thing as you, and they are willing to support you through that process. Don't be afraid. We're here to help. All right, so I've got a lot of questions today about the educational side of agriculture and getting agriculture in schools. So for example, Amber Nichols, a phenomenal woman, she asks, as a teacher, what should I be talking to my kids about with the agriculture industry in West Virginia? I love this question, because one of the things that I talk about all the time is that agriculture is, of course, a super important part of our everyday lives. And our food doesn't come from the grocery store. And a lot of our youth in the West Virginia really kind of have that mindset that it just kind of shows up. But it doesn't, right? You have to talk about that origin story. So as a teacher, I would really try to put an emphasis on, where does your food come from? How does it come about? Who are the people who are responsible for getting that on your plate? And the other thing that I would really put an emphasis on is the fact that, I love this quote, I say it all the time, agriculture is so much more than cows, sows, and plows. You don't need to be on a farm to make a difference in agriculture. If you want to work in the ag industry, there are careers out there for you. You can become an agricultural lawyer. You can become an ag scientist, just like me. You can be an agricultural politician and help out our farmers in the capital. There are so many different things that you can do to be a part of ag that doesn't necessitate you being on the farm, because I understand that is not for everyone. So Annette Culberson asks, coming from the education platform again, how can educators or school counselors help students learn that agriculture could be more than being just a farmer? And that's just that. help them explore those career opportunities, just like I talked about. Again, you don't always have to work on a farm to be involved in agriculture to make a difference. We have so for example, my brother, he is a diesel mechanic, and agricultural mechanics are a huge part of making sure that our ag industry moves smoothly. We have people who are responsible for working with our DNR, ensuring that our forestry system works really well. We've got, so Amanda Shootman, she is Miss Berkeley County this year. Her social impact initiative was all about supporting our state parks. Okay, that is another part of agriculture. So people who want to be involved in that are encompassed in the ag industry. So just being able to talk about these careers and advise students that there are so many different paths you can take is going to be a huge way to help out our ag industry. Laura Elizabeth Storm asks, I have lived here for almost 25 years and labeled a city gal because of my lack of exposure to the ag industry. How can agriculture be better promoted in the urban areas to engage children in its importance and in promoting jobs available in this industry? I also grew up right in the city and was a first-generation farmer in my family, and it kind of took other people talking to me about the ag industry to guide me down this path and let me know that there are opportunities for me to take. Even though I grew up in the city, that's okay. I can still work in the ag industry, and having people kind of light that fire under me and get me excited about this was a great way for me to get involved. There are also a ton of programs such as Grow Ohio Valley in Wheeling, West Virginia. They have an urban agriculture program that allows people in urban areas to learn about where your food comes from. So getting involved in programs like that is a great way to be involved. And then same thing about promoting jobs available. Just Googling, looking up a bunch of stuff, finding people who are in those jobs. And that's something that I'd like to do with my Farmer Friday interviews too, is show people that there are so many different things that you can do. So I try to get interviews with a ton of different people, and that really allows me to get to that point and get that information out there. Monica Warner, who is a Miss West Virginia sister, she is somebody that we competed with last year. I love her to pieces. She said, what are some of the best ways that people with no agricultural background could support those in the ag industry? I love this question. It is something that I love to talk about because we are all consumers, right? Every single one of us, regardless of whether or not we work in the ag industry or not, we are consumers, right? We have to eat every single day. So how can we help out the ag industry? First, there's 3 different things that I'd love to talk about. So the first thing is you can shop local. All right, and I understand that sometimes shopping local or shopping at a farmer's market can be just a little bit more pricey than what you would get in the grocery store. But I really want you to stop and take a minute and think about where that money goes. If you buy something from a grocery store, that money goes, a little bit of it goes to the grocery store, a little bit's going to go to the people who shipped it there, a little bit goes to the people who packaged it, who processed it, and then whatever's left over goes to the farmer. If you buy from a farmer's market, a large majority of that money goes right back to the farmer and the farm family. All right, so your money goes to something a little bit better, right? The other thing too that you can think about is you don't have to get your entire grocery list at a farmer's market. I mean, you can. You go to a farmer's market and you think there's only a couple different items, but there's typically a ton of things that you can get. But what I would suggest is start small. Make it a weekly habit to only get one thing from the farmer's market, whether that's just your fruits every week or just your meats every week. Don't be afraid to make that small change in your weekly habits, and that's going to allow you to, again, make a difference with your local farmers. The second thing that I would tell you to do is educate yourself. So don't be afraid to read different things like peer-reviewed journals or read credited articles to get information about the ag industry. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and the best thing that you can do is really talk to our farmers, talk to people who work in the ag industry, and read all about it to educate yourself. That's going to be a huge thing moving forward in helping the ag industry. And the last thing that I would tell you to do is, if you notice that your farmers in your area are struggling, go ahead and write to your legislators. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, or if you don't want to write to them, call them. But that's going to let people know that, hey, our farmers could use a little bit of help here. Or if you notice that there's something great going on, there's a great new program in your area for farmers markets or farmers or agriculture, call your legislators, tell them about it. Get some word out there if you can. So for example, I am slowly working on writing a letter to one of our legislators here in the state about the 2019 Fresh Food Act. That act is a great way to promote agriculture in our area and, of course, help out our West Virginia farmers. So what it is it requires that 5% of the meat, milk, eggs, vegetables, fruits that are provided to state institutions come from West Virginia farmers. So those state institutions would be jails, hospitals, schools. They really want to increase the amount of agricultural revenue and increase the amount of agricultural production here in the state of West Virginia, and I believe that is a really great way to do that. Because I support that, I'm going to write to our legislators. So those are 3 really good things that you can do in order to help the ag industry in your area. So I've got a couple more questions here. Let's see. Kelly Burke, I love her. What are some of the ways that we can support you on your road to Miss America? Well, thank you so much for that. We can use all the support we can get. The Miss West Virginia organization has been super helpful on this journey. But, something that you can do is, of course, like, share, comment on my posts, get my social impact initiative out there as best as you can. This is something that's really important to me, and I want to make sure that I can first and foremost serve my state. When it comes to the actual journey to Miss America, if you want to donate to my Miss America fund in order so that I can pay for my gas, make sure that I'm able to afford my hotel fees, that would be super helpful too. So I have a meet and greet on August 1st at the Pizza Oven in Inwood, West Virginia, from 5 to 9. There is a flyer out there already, and through that you can come, we can talk, we can get pictures, we can do autographs, but I also have the ability for you to donate to me there, or anything that you purchase at the Pizza Oven, I'll get 20% of, and that's going to be a huge help moving forward. I'm also going to have a couple different fundraisers throughout the year, whether that's a raffle sale or a bingo. We're still working out some kinks here and there, but that's going to be a huge help to me too. But really just keeping an eye on my social media and, liking, sharing, and making sure that you can get the word out there, that's going to be a huge thing to support me. So thank you so much for asking that question. The farmers market products are always so much better. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And things like that will last a little bit longer in your kitchen. You have a better quality of product, and I definitely couldn't agree with you more. How do you see ag evolving in the next 20 years in West Virginia? Well, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to include more small farms within our state. I know within the last year we went from about 150 farmers markets to about 250 farmers markets. So growing, that huge growth is going to be super important here in the state of West Virginia. In 20 years, I'd like to see a little bit more of the agricultural sustainability side of things come into play. So making sure that we are able to, of course, sustain the way that we feed people. That's going to go through science and research, and that's what I do. It's what I love to do. Hopefully we can make that happen, and I'm sure within 20 years we're going to have a little bit more technology coming into play too. They are doing talks of potentially going to the electric tractors. We'll see that that's going to take a very long time to happen, but that's gonna hopefully slowly come into play. I don't know how much of a help that's going to be, but I know we're going to have more technology coming into play too. So I don't see any more questions at the moment. But thank you so much for everybody who did. Oh, Paige Harold, I'm so sorry. I skipped yours completely. Alright. Paige was also part of our Miss West Virginia class of 2022. She is phenomenal and super funny. So hopefully if you get the chance to talk to Paige, you will definitely laugh. What steps did you take to create your monologue? My monologue is very important to me, and it's actually a true story. You know, I was literally sitting in a soil science class when somebody did raise their hand and was like, why? Why are we even learning about dirt at all? And he did go into this huge spiel. My professor at the time, he was an avid lover of soil, and that was his huge passion, something that he talked about all the time. And I got back to my dorm room that night, and I really just kind of thought about it. Wow, you know, that thought applies to the rest of my life too. And the thought is, don't put yourself in these little tiny boxes. Don't allow somebody to just say you are just one person. You're just one thing. Because you're so much more than that. And that so much more, all of those things kind of help create the person that you are. So don't allow somebody to just label you as just one thing. And I sat in the shower and I wrote my monologue. The best ideas come from the shower, right? So after that, I was like, I talked to my director at the time, and I was like, is this something that I could even use? She was like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Go ahead and try it. Why not? And since then, it's kind of grown into my dirt monologue, and I am officially known as the Dirt Girl, and I'm okay with that. How do you define sustainability? Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really good one. To me, sustainability is going to fall in between. Sorry, there's a lot of different things popping up right now. Sustainability is going to fall in between the organic farming and our modern farming methods. So right in the middle is where we're going to find sustainability, and that's how we're going to feed the ever-growing population. Sustainability is where we're going to have the ability to make sure that we're not overusing our water, we're not overusing the nutrients in the soil, and we're able to maintain the fast pace of agriculture here in America and in our world. You know, it's said that by 2050, our population is supposed to increase by 25%. And we're supposed to feed all of those people, right? And I know right now, I believe it's one farmer's responsible for feeding. It's like 260 people. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look at that fact again. But it's a lot. It is a huge amount of people that one person's responsible for feeding. So everyone's ramping up production, right? But they're not thinking about how that's affecting our ecosystem or how that's affecting the actual land. So being able to maintain that fast pace and not affect those things, our ecosystem and the land and our animals and things like that, that's when we find sustainability. So it's a tough question. Thank you for that. All right, I don't think I skipped anybody, and I think I got all of them from today. And if you do have another question after we end this and you want to shoot me a message, please go ahead and do so. I'm always on my phone, always ready to talk to the people of West Virginia. Well, I hope that you learned a little bit about me today, and I hope that I was able to answer your questions efficiently. And I'm really looking forward to being your Miss West Virginia this year and making a difference in the state. I know that I've said that a million times during this interview, but I really want that to be a huge part of my year of service. I want to be able to make that impact. And I know everyone does. It's a huge part of the Miss America organization. But I really just want to get that to happen this year. So if there's anything that I can do to help out your farm or farmer's market, if there's anything that I can do to provide you resources to get you started on a farm, if you've got questions about agriculture, please feel free to ask me. And if you do have a farm and farmer's market and you would like to do a video, a Farmer Friday interview, please let me know, because I would love to have you. Hopefully you can find those examples either on my Miss Jefferson County, my old Miss Jefferson County Facebook page, and my current Miss West Virginia page. I've got one up right now. I'm in the process of trying to move all of those to my Miss West Virginia page. Hopefully I can do that soon so you can see all of them. There's a lot of great information in them. But until then, my name is Elizabeth Lynch, your Miss West Virginia. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something today and I was able to help you out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.